As part of sustainable sites, there are two further kinds of pollution that we want to address: noise pollution and light pollution. And noise pollution, at this point, we do not get a lead point for addressing. Research is ongoing. It's a serious problem for wildlife as well as for human mental health. There's a whole field of acoustic ecology that deals with this. It's a big issue. You do get a point for addressing light pollution, both under LEED certification and under sustainable site certification. So just like pollution in general is a material in the wrong place, light pollution is light in the wrong place, light going in the wrong direction, and often too much of it. And light pollution, as you probably know, causes all kinds of problems with wildlife. All kinds of animals depend upon light and dark cycles to tell them when it's time to breed, when it's time to migrate, where they are. It really messes things up. And it also messes up human health rhythms. The circadian rhythms are our day to night cycles. And then, of course, there are other things like you can't see the night sky. NASA, with its satellites that fly overhead, offers photographs of the Earth at night. And photographs like this are composites. So the satellite has flown over half of the globe when it was in nighttime. And then as it gets to the other half of the globe, when it becomes night over there, then it takes a shot there. And then they have attached those two nighttime photos together. So you can see, like, look at the United States, look at California, Seattle, the East Coast. It's just nothing but light, pretty much. And this is what we're talking about, especially in cities, but also in suburbs where you have this kind of thing with the extreme electric lighting. It just fills the sky with artificial light. Here's an interesting comparison picture. This happens to be in Toronto, Canada. Here is a house under normal conditions, got a street light and a porch light and so forth. And notice what the sky looks like and how much you can see of the sky. Then they had a blackout where the power went out, and here is a photograph of what the sky looks like. This house apparently had either battery-powered lights or maybe a generator, so there are some lights inside. But still, notice how you can see far more stars and the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. Here's a comparison of the city of Berlin and how its sky is just filled with light, and the clouds appear lighted from the lighting below. Here's a photograph from Glacier National Park without artificial lighting, and the clouds are those black things floating in the sky. Here are two comparison photos of the constellation Orion. The one on the right is from a city, and you can faintly make out those three little dots. Those are the dots in Orion's belt. The photograph on the left is that same constellation viewed from a wilderness area where there are no lights, and you can see the belt stands out clearly, and look at all the stars you can see in the sky. Here's another photograph from NASA of the Earth at night. Again, a composite photo. And Europe and the Middle East. Again, you can see almost total light. And another photograph. Oh, here's Australia with their lights. And another of the United States. This one is from the Dark Sky Society, which is an organization working to promote minimization of light pollution and promotion of dark skies. So the Dark Sky Association. And the solutions they propose are First of all, shield your lights. So here's a sketch of lights with shields over them so that the light rays are directed downward instead of up into the sky. Second, limit the hours of lighting. Some cities have policies whereby high-rise office buildings turn off their lights at night if a floor is not in use, or they may have buildings themselves may have policies where the cleaning crew will do everything on one floor at a time so that just that floor is lit and they can turn off the lights in the other floors. And then a third solution is, well, maybe don't light. Maybe we don't need so many lights. Here's a sketch showing, first of all, at the top, what happens when you don't have shields around your lights and the light spreads into the sky. In the middle picture, what happens when you have a shield. It's called a cutoff over your light. That's better. It directs light downward. But then the question is, do we really need all this light splashing out so far? Maybe we could lower the light and use that louvered style of landscape light where we light only where it's needed, but not as much wasted light. And so here are some guidelines from the Dark Sky Society that I'll let you read through for yourself. This is from the Dark Sky Society, so the lights on the left are ones that they discourage. They don't have cutoffs, they have big bulbs that spray light everywhere. The ones on the right, they encourage. They have cutoffs, they have shields, and so forth. So, dark sky initiatives of various sorts are helpful. Have light cutoffs, minimize the amount of pollution, reduce the number of hours, maybe don't have lights on so long. But we still need darkness, and wildlife needs darkness. Notice here we are in, if I remember right, this is a dark sky certified wilderness area where you can actually go and see stars and the Milky Way at night. And look at this. That strip through the sky is the edge of our galaxy, the Milky Way. And notice how there are dark places in the galaxy, in addition to how many stars you can see. But the dark places in the galaxy are very noticeable when you can see the Milky Way. And there is anthropological research of some other groups of people, for instance, the Quechua, who live in the Andes and lived in the Andes for millennia. The ancient Quechua had beliefs about the Milky Way and water. The Milky Way was this great cosmic river that was the bringer of water, which they needed for growing food. And they had a lot of cultural beliefs around the Milky Way. And there were, the Milky Way was so visible that the dark places were actually the constellations for them. So there were two that were notable. One was a great weavy dark place in the Milky Way that looks like a serpent, and it wasn't always visible. It depended on what season you were talking about, but there was a certain season of the year when the head of that serpent would start to appear above the Andes Mountains, and as it happens, that was the season when the rains would start, and so this serpent was the bringer of water from the great cosmic river, and there was a great celebration when the serpent in the Milky Way would appear and the rains would start. Then there were another set of, call them constellations, but they were dark places in the Milky Way that looked like toads, frogs. And these cosmic toads would appear above the horizon at the same time of year when the toads would hatch out in the land, and so a great celebration occurred then. So anyway, the point is, for the Quechua, The Milky Way and its dark place constellations were very important, and it's just wonderful to be able to see them. Here are a few sources for you, including connections, URLs for the Dark Sky Society, and then some recommended practices from the Lighting, the Illumination Engineers Society.